How's everybody doing this morning? Good. Fantastic. My name is Aaron Schulenberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Society of Collision Repair Specialists, and thank you so much for being here for our annual Repairer Roundtable meeting. We had a great board meeting yesterday, and it's fantastic to see a room filled full of the industry and folks who are interested and hungry in trying to address today's challenges that we have for our businesses. So we spoke yesterday. One of the biggest issues that has been facing collision repairers and the collision repair industry has certainly been the workforce development challenges and technical shortages that we have with skilled workers. And I'm involved in some local initiatives with our county quality of life, and through some of the projects that we were working on, it became evident through some of my peers that Tennessee served as a really interesting marker for the work that was being done surrounding development of trade and development of skilled workers and identifying solutions to challenges that were very similar to what we have in our own industry. And so through those conversations, I ended up getting connected with some of the folks here in Tennessee, and we looked at ways that we could learn from their experience in developing programs that really spoke to similar challenges. I think that the point of this Repairer Roundtable meeting over the last several years has developed into, if we have a focused presentation that hits on topics that are important to us, it opens up the opportunity for our audience and for you as participants to then kind of converse with the panelists, converse with the presenters, present your own viewpoints and ask questions. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a series of a couple different speakers who we're going to invite up onto the stage. And then at the end of their presentations, there's going to be opportunity to chat, to ask questions, to share, and to contribute as audience members. So there's a mic in the middle. I encourage you to use it. And we're going to dive right in from there. So up first, we have Ann Thompson, who's the Director of Workforce Development for the Department of Economic and Community Development here in Tennessee, and Dr. Kenyatta Lovett, Executive Director of Complete Tennessee. And they're both going to share a bit about work that's going on in Tennessee to drive more folks into the trade. So.
I have to tell you just a little history lesson here about Opryland. This used to be a theme park. Is anybody here from Tennessee? Is everybody from out of the state? Okay, so this used to be a theme park. So when I was a child, we used to come here and we would have roller coasters and all these water rides. And so every time I walk in now, I'm a little sad because there was no gigantic hotel. But I'm also very optimistic because that smell of that water going around, that's what I went home smelling like every time we come to Opryland. And it makes me very happy. So this is a very happy place for me. I want to thank you all for inviting us to come and talk. I do work for the state of Tennessee. We're very focused on education. I focus specifically on workforce development. I work with companies. I pitch our state. I also work on retention projects to help companies find their workforce. And Aaron was spot on. The challenges that we're facing here in Tennessee are the same challenges that you're facing all across the country. So I wanted to open up with a small video just to give you a better understanding of Tennessee. So just to confirm, there's no one in here who's from the state of Tennessee, correct? Has anybody visited the state of Tennessee? All right. Did anybody go downtown last night? Did anybody go to Tootsie's? Robert's Western World? Anybody buy a pair of boots? Is anybody really tired today? Good. That's what we do. So this is just a very quick overview. It's called our anthem video. And as soon as it's done, we'll dive into some content.
There are two types of people in this world. Some are fond of the status quo, but you won't find many of those people in Tennessee. You're more likely to find that other type, the ones who spend themselves on work worth doing, who grab the chance to step on stage and say something worth hearing, something worth believing. Here, we know what it means to have big dreams. We also know how important it is to have the focus and the skills to transform an idea into reality. To build something better, you need vision. You also need a modern workforce, equipped with the latest technology, yet dedicated to timeless values of hands-on craftsmanship. You need a state that embraces learning, and we've made history with our commitment. Our workforce is empowered with access to education and innovative partnerships. You need a partner who delivers results. With the lowest debt in the country and a sterling credit rating, we have a hard-earned reputation for fiscal responsibility. By knowledge and by spirit, Tennessee knows how to succeed in business, with the expertise and assets to make things happen. By geography and by attitude, Tennessee knows how to reach global markets. With the infrastructure and prized international access, get you where you need to be. And by all accounts, Tennessee, with our boundless natural beauty, is the picture-perfect place to call home. This isn't just any place. This is land where legends are made. This is the stage for people who challenge the status quo, who envision a better and brighter future, and who dare to make it happen. Now is your time to be mastered in Tennessee.
So I thought that was good to put in here to give you all a better understanding of what is Tennessee, especially since many of you have visited. We are more than the honky tonks, although I will say the NFL draft has taken us to a new level. Is anybody staying for that? Are there any Pats fans in here? Yes, go Pats. So you are a very difficult club to get into. My husband is from Worcester. And I'm, of course, from Kentucky. I live in Nashville, so every time I say I'm a Pats fan, they're like, oh, you're on the bandwagon. I'm like, no, my dogs are Belichick and Brady. Like, we're really fans. So, anyways, to continue on the theme of where are you today? This is where you are within the United States. This is where you are right in the middle with Nashville. And it also helps you understand how logistically placed Tennessee is within the state. So we are within a day's drive time of 75% of the population in the United States. That is a huge sell for logistics purposes. We also have a lot of brands that you're familiar with. Klondike bars, we gave you Dolly Parton, we gave you Elvis Presley, we gave you Jack Daniels. So there are a lot of different things that occur here in Tennessee. The brand of Tennessee is very well known, even though it's not always known that it is made in Tennessee. These are some of our corporate headquarters. In Nashville, we actually have an abundance of healthcare concentration here. So we have HCA, we have CHS, we have Sarah Cannon, we have Parallon. We have a lot of different healthcare resources across the state as well. And then these are some of our larger corporate headquarters. And then this is some of our relocation track records. So again, I wanted to just give you guys a better understanding of what are the businesses that are here in Tennessee, what are the things that we're facing from a workforce challenge standpoint. It's hard to talk about some of the solutions we put in place until you better understand what the area looks like. So just like you, the state of Tennessee also has metrics. We're very metrics driven. We also have a dashboard that you can view on our website. It's TNECD dashboards. If you just Google that, it will pop up. We're very transparent. Under Governor Haslam, who was our governor up until this January, he was very focused on transparency of government. Ensuring that people understood where incentives were going, ensuring that people understood what companies were coming to town. So we have all of our metrics online. These were our goals for 2018. It was 20,000 new jobs, $4 billion capital investment, 48% investment in rural counties, and then 60% high quality jobs. So from those goals, you can see that we hit all of them except for the rural counties. One thing that is interesting about Tennessee is that we only have 5 counties that are not considered rural. We are a very rural state, even though when you come here to Nashville, you wouldn't know that. And so it's trying to figure out how to get more of these workforce opportunities into the rural areas. How do we ensure that those students who may not have a Nissan or a GM or a Denza right down the street also have access to good education? The high quality job is another interesting stat. So the way we measured that was based on the median county wage. If that job paid more than the median county wage, then it was considered high quality. And that's the best way that we can connect the jobs that we're bringing in to the education necessary for those occupations. Also, I want to point out that M&Ms also made in Tennessee. So this is our business year to date for this year. We're at 6,204 jobs, $1.4 billion investment. We're at 10.9% rural and 98.5% high quality jobs. So I know you're not from Tennessee, you don't live in Tennessee, but does anybody know why our metrics are so off right now? Does anyone know of a large company who recently said they were going to come to Nashville? Amazon! They messed up all of our metrics. So we have 5,000 new jobs coming to Nashville. It's a distribution logistics hub. The average wage is supposed to be somewhere around $150,000. These are very high quality jobs. I have no idea where these people are going to park or where how they're going to get on and off the interstate. We have a little bit of a transportation challenge right now. But it has killed our rural county metric, and it has also greatly increased our high quality job metric. So in addition to that, Alliance Bernstein is one that recently located. Ernst & Young recently located in Nashville. Nashville is changing and it's becoming more of a destination spot for some of these large financial companies. But it's not where we actually focus. So Tennessee is a heavy automotive state. We have 3 OEMs. One of them is sitting here in the front. This is Nissan, Stan, who's with Nissan. We also have VW over in Chattanooga, so over on the east side, and we also have GM down in Spring Hill. We have quite a few, we also have great access to all the other OEMs within the state. So again, thinking about our location in Tennessee being in the middle, we can reach 75% of that population in a day's trucking time. We have great opportunities to connect between different OEMs. And then we also have, I'm sorry, I missed a stat for you. Oh, there you go, over 900 automotive suppliers. So 88 of the 95 counties in Tennessee have some type of automotive company within them. And what this means to me is that if we have this high employment concentration, we better have some darn good education programs. Because the world that you're in and the fields that you're in is changing every day. It's no longer something where it's just let's slap some paint on it. I mean, it involves electronics, it involves measurements, it involves coming out electric cars, the new lithium-ion batteries. I don't know what to do with those, and you have to have certain licenses just to package them and ship them. So everything is constantly changing in your space, and the question that we had in Tennessee was, how are we going to keep up with this? We've got a lot of growth in these new sectors, but we're automotive. We've been automotive for a while. Especially over the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years, you've seen a lot of companies pulling out of Michigan, out of Wisconsin, and coming down here. So as all this growth was going on and all these good things were happening, I kept getting phone calls from companies, large companies, small companies, mid-sized companies, about their recruitment challenges. And it all came down to these things, more or less. There were some that were more prevalent than others. But it's interesting to note that the skills kept coming up. We can't find people with the skills. Can't find people with the skills. We can't find people with the skills. Do you guys hear this in your jobs? Right? Can't find people with the skills. And then it was like, if you could find the skills, maybe they couldn't show up on time. Maybe they couldn't find childcare. Maybe they couldn't pass a drug test. Like there were all these things that were going on where it was like, what can Tennessee do to help address some of these problems? So what we had to recognize is the fact that workforce is changing. And your industry is no different. Your industry is changing and evolving, and your need for education is rising. So by 2020, which is in like, what, 8 months? 65% of the jobs are going to require a post-secondary credential. So this is not a 4-year degree. This is not a master's. This is not a Ph.D. Dr. Lovett is my favorite Ph.D. but we need people who can do like things with their hands and make things and help the economy grow and operate. So we had to recognize that. We also had to recognize how are we going to get people interested in this, and that's where the money comes in. Paychecks matter. So trying to figure out how to help students understand that if they get that associate's degree, they're more than likely going to gain an additional $500,000 over their lifetime. If they get that bachelor's in the right field, they're more than likely going to gain $1 million in advanced earnings over their lifetime. So this looks different. This is one of those very like blanket kind of statements, but it's true, right? So you can think about the occupations you have. A lot of students can come out of school, get a certificate at a technical college or an associate's degree, and be set for life, have a pretty good living. In addition to the changes in education, the college student is changing. So when I thought college student when I was in college, it looked a lot like me. I was 18, I had 4 years to be free and learn and hang out, and that's not who it is today. And that really wasn't a very good use of my time. And if you talk to my parents, they will tell you that they wish they had rethought that time. But 38% are over the age of 25. So that's a big access question, right? How are we going to get these people to the classes? How is the school going to mold to fit the student? 58% are working. Now I will say that I worked when I was in college. This is one of my favorite things to do, so please bear with me because I like to be interactive. Let's just do a show of hands. Who was working when you were 35? Who was working when you were 30? Who was working when you were 25? Who was working when you were 20, going through college? Who was working when you were in high school? Who was working before high school? You were mowing yards, you were babysitting, you're taking out the trash for your grandma. Where did you learn to work?
Parents.
At work. It's not your parents. So
I work for my dad.
Oh, okay, well, your parents. Okay, yeah, your parents. But for most people, the households help, right? But we've had dysfunctional families since time was created. So that is not the crux of the issue here. It's more the access to being in an operation. I will tell you, I started working at American Eagle when I was 15. My background is retail. I think it actually shows now. Think about it. It's where I learned to talk to people. It's where I learned to fold clothes. It's where I learned how to count. And it's also where I learned to show up on time and where I learned my social security number because I knew I had to clock in order to get my paycheck. And it's that experience and that exposure to work that helps people understand how to work. So when we have these issues around soft skills or people not knowing how to dress or people not knowing how to show up on time, one of the best things that we can do is give them an opportunity to work through programs like an apprenticeship or a work-based learning program. So that's a side note to this, but I have to give it up because you're a very good audience. The other thing is that 26% of these students are raising children, and that creates a whole new world of problems. Do I have any parents in here? How different is the world now? It's crazy, right? So you don't have time, you don't have money, you don't have patience, you don't have access to the resources you need. It's just a very different look. So understanding all this is important as you look at what should that education look like. So here's what we created in Tennessee. It was called Drive to 55. At the time, this seemed like a very ambitious goal, even though we now realize that we're behind the curve. So it's to have 55% of Tennesseans educated with a post-secondary credential by 2025. Well, as you just saw on the slide before, we need 60% by next year. So overall, we're a little behind, but the premise is good. And here's the part that's really interesting, is the access. So if you think about equity and equality, you need access to things. So what Governor Haslam did was he made college free. It is free tuition for any community college or technical college, and it started out with just high school students in the Tennessee Promise. So you had to go through certain requirements, you had to go through certain meetings, you had a mentor, you have community service obligations, you have paperwork, you have a FAFSA, you have, a lot of meetings, and you have to apply to college. And in this process, we saw tremendous growth in the enrollment numbers. So when Tennessee Promise went in 2014, between 2014 and 2016, we saw a 13% increase in enrollment. That's huge. We also led the nation in FAFSA completions, which was really interesting for me too, because I always thought it was FAFSA. Nope, FAFSA, very hard word. And then, so with the success, we thought, well, we've got to open this up to adults too. So we did Reconnect. Reconnect is a program for adults. So any Tennessean who does not have a prior credential can go back to get an associate's degree or a technical degree from our technical colleges at no cost. And so in addition to that, we had Tennessee Leap, which was $20 million that went out across the state into these collaboratives, and the goal was to kind of raise everybody together. And what's interesting is that while we were cleaning all this out, a lot of these individuals had bachelor's and master's and Ph.D. educations, and we think access. But if you go back to some of these challenges, we still haven't addressed transportation or childcare or drugs. All very big things that affect somebody going to school and completing. So here's my big thing, free free. But free doesn't really mean free. Free just means access. So the other thing that we did in this process that's important to note is we changed the definition of college. So a technical college is a college. Getting that certificate is a degree. So changing the verbiage actually has made a very large impact. I will tell you one of our largest challenges in this whole process was parents. Parents who've been told forever, my kid is going to a 4-year. They're gonna go to 4-year, we're gonna spend $150,000, and they're gonna come out and maybe make $8 at Starbucks, and it's gonna be great. So this was changing the way that we looked at this. We also had to get to the high schools. There's a large disconnect with a lot of the individuals who are in high schools and the teachers. Because if you think about most of the teachers you know, they went to school to be a teacher, they got their degree to be a teacher, and then they went to teach. And there wasn't a whole lot in the middle, right? It wasn't like they got out into industry and understood what the world looked like. And I can tell you, when you think about collision repair, they don't understand all the different things you deal with, and all the different areas, and all the knowledge that's necessary, and all of the skills that are necessary to do your job, because it's advanced so much. I mean, you have always been magicians in my book. I don't know how you guys fix cars. I have no idea, but I think it's wonderful, and I'm really glad that you do. And I want to continue to create more of you, because that's a skill that's going to not only help that individual, but also help the state of Tennessee. Again, thinking about our investment in automotive. We've invested millions of dollars into automotive economy, and we want to ensure that those companies are successful and able to find the individuals that they need. So now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Kenyatta Lovett, who is one of my favorite people, also one of the smartest people I know. And he will talk to you more about the details of the success of the Tennessee Promise and the Tennessee Reconnect. So I don't want to leave with a feeling of like it was a failure, it was a huge success. But it's one piece of a very large pie that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Anne.
You're welcome.
Good morning, and I want to start with a little bit about my story. And I don't think you may not know my story from high school, but believe it or not, I used to read Road and Track and Car and Driver religiously. And my goal was to be a designer of cars, believe it or not, Dan. But I had no clue. In this conversation, I'm opening up about how the landscape in Tennessee has changed both on the supply and the demand side, especially in the automotive industry. And so I wrote the editors of Car and Track and Car and Drive and Road and Track to say, what is it the major, I was in my senior year, what's the major for designing cars? I had no clue. Fortunately, one of the editors wrote me back and said it's industrial design, and he gave me a listing of all of the universities and colleges across the nation that had that program. Now, think about, this is 1989, and what you see here on this map did not exist. Where's the automotive one? Is that it? The OEMs, yes. And so when I thought about being a car designer, I realized I would have to leave Nashville and probably never come back again. I would have to live in Detroit, probably in Europe, and that was a very scary reality for me. I did go on to college to try to major in industrial design, but little did I know, and returning back to Tennessee almost 15 years ago, this reality here for automotive design, the headquarters that are here in the region, did not exist when I left in 1989. But now there are plenty of jobs, plenty of opportunities for young people like me who have a passion for being involved with the automotive industry to take part in that in some way. What I want to talk to you today is about the supply side, and did a great job of mentioning the demand side. Everyone here has a challenge with the skills, having the talent, supply of talent you need to make sure that you can thrive in the future. And your world is changing fast because not only do we have electric cars coming up in mass quantity, but we got to get ready for autonomous vehicles. And what in the world will that look like for collision repair, car repair, other types of work? Dan's thinking about that all the time, and it's going to change the way in which we recruit workers, train them, skill them, and upskill them. What's been fortunate in Tennessee and what was not available also in 1989 was I had no clue of what that major was, and I had no pathway to actually get there. What if I didn't want to start at a university? What if I wanted to start really with a technical certificate to get myself involved in working with cars, and then move on to an associate's degree to maybe work in more of an office setting, and then move on into maybe engineering or industrial design to be part of that sort of higher level of industry and manufacturing and move on. And unfortunately, it wasn't there then, but it's definitely here now. But we still, to Ann's point, have challenges in making sure that we provide that promising path for students. This map here is just a map of our attainment changes and improvements over time for the state by county. You'll notice here in the region where Nashville is, there's a lot of high growth in attainment. Unfortunately, that growth is more from in-migration than making sure we're upskilling and building up the people who have been in Tennessee all of their lives. You'll see in a lot of our rural communities that they've actually, in fact, dropped in their attainment goal, and this is actually old data, but if you go all the way here to Memphis, unfortunately, the latest numbers show that they dropped 5 percentage points in attainment. That means they're a less educated county now than they were a year ago, which is a scary reality and definitely scary for each of you, because you think about sometimes in your communities, what happens if I have a less educated, less trained, less skilled population? What does that do for my cost? What does that do for my organization and my company? So our strategy on the supply side, as Ann mentioned, has been incredible. One, there's free college and free tuition for technical and community college. But one thing that a lot of people don't know is Tennessee is still the only state where our public institutions are funded now solely based on outcomes. Most institutions pay for what we call, unfortunately, butts and seats for enrollment. But in 2010, the governor at the time thought it would make good sense to say, you are responsible for making sure students come back every semester, making sure they walk across that stage. And let's go beyond that, making sure they're placed in a job. So every public institution, whether it's a university, a community college, or a technical college, is funded solely on that. Ann mentioned about the emphasis on community and technical colleges. That part has been very rewarding and refreshing. When you think about it, for Tennessee and Middle Tennessee especially, if there are jobs that are sort of bachelor's and above, in-migration may work because that population can move around a lot more. But when you think about that middle skill job, those individuals typically want to stay in their community and contribute to that community right where they are. So if we don't have a good, robust engine to make sure that those individuals, those students or adults can get into a technical or an associate's degree, we've definitely missed an opportunity, and Dan will tell you and others, we're getting a lot of pushback, and I can tell you as well, that industry is saying, what are you going to do? Because we're having drastic issues right now, especially in our rural communities. There is also a mandate for career pathways. So in order for all of this to work in a way that the Kenyatta of today can see a viable pathway forward in their career, there were mandates to say, institutions, you have to begin to work together. You as an industry, as an employer, you don't care about county lines, right? You're working with different counties, different jurisdictions. What you care about is making sure you can source the talent from wherever. You're not partial to one institution or another. You want them all to work together to make sure you have the skills that you need. And so in Tennessee, we've tried to make that happen, and there are just a few examples I'll mention later where it has happened, but it doesn't happen necessarily across the state. I don't want you to go away believing that. And then finally, there has been incentive funding. Ann mentioned LEAP, the Labor and Education Alignment Program, where the state has incentivized institutions, employers, chambers to all work together to figure out how can they cultivate and add capacity to their pipeline of talent for specific industries. And so again, it's a demand and supply side innovation approach. So a few I'll mention quickly. One, and Dan and the team is going to talk about this for the Nissan area. So Rutherford County and the surrounding area is our strongest auto manufacturing core for the state. And so what's been great about what's happened in Rutherford County is at every level of education in a program. Well, let me ask, I need a show of hands. How many people have heard of mechatronics? Oh wow, that's just a Tennessee term, right?
I think it's just an education firm.
It's related to advanced manufacturing, correct me Dan if I'm wrong, robotics. And so in Tennessee, our higher education institution layers work this way. Some of you have a community college that also offers technical degrees. We have a technical college system, then we have a community college system, then we have a university system. What we've been able to do in Rutherford County, essentially in mechatronics, especially around the auto manufacturing area and advanced manufacturing, is to make sure that students can go in high school, get a certain level of Siemens Level 1 certification, I believe in the high schools and at the technical college. They can then come back and go to the community college and earn another level of Siemens certification, and then come back the next and go to the MTSU, which is the area university, and advance from there. So almost from high school and certifications there all the way almost to a Ph.D., a student has a viable pathway in their particular industry. The problem is we don't have enough. And because we've done it in Rutherford County, for some reason, we have to get other counties to work together to be able to produce that as well. In Nashville, the work is really around adults. We realized that in Nashville, in spite of the pedal taverns and the cranes that you saw and the craft beer places, there's a lot of poverty. There's actually a growth in poverty. But industry is saying, what about the residents right here? What can you do with free college, with all the different incentives you have from the state to make sure that those individuals can be part of our talent pipeline? So there's deliberate work now to talk about transportation, childcare, other things that we know impact individuals right in an urban area that we think could have access easily, but they actually don't. So that part is working well. And the last thing I'll mention is in the First Tennessee region, so the far east part of Tennessee. The good thing about our state, or maybe the bad thing when I have to drive, is you can drive to Canada faster than you can drive across Tennessee. Seriously. And actually in the First Tennessee region, they are closer to 5 other state capitals than they are to the actual state capital that they're in. But they really do a good job of working together. So they created a regional advanced manufacturing facility where Eastman, if you're familiar with Eastman Chemical, they're a big dominant player there. They actually provide most of the training in advanced manufacturing and also other types of industries, where this has been a collective regional effort, but a community effort. So what I guess I wanted to say to just wrap it up, because I think we're getting close on time, is we have tried our best to work with the supply and the demand side, but the important piece is really about the partnerships that make this work or doesn't make it work. Again, I think back on the Kenyatta Lovetts of today, I'm very impressed by the fact that we do have a promising future for a framework, but we do have a long way to go. And I'm very impressed that you want to learn more about our work, because I'm sure in your communities, you're having challenges with cultivating a pipeline. And hopefully what we've talked about today and what you'll hear later will help you think through how you can reach out to industry, other industries, reach out to other educational providers, and also reach out to other nonprofit leaders and to figure out how can you cultivate the pipeline you need. So, thank you.
I'd like to introduce you now to give a little bit more context around folks who are taking advantage of those programs and how they're utilizing them and how they help to drive them. We have Dan Caldwell, who is the Senior Manager for Learning Pathways for Nissan, and Dr. Jon Mandrell, who is the President of the Tennessee College of Applied Technology here in Tennessee. So guys, thank you very much, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Good morning. Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting us out. It's such an honor and a pleasure to share with you today what we're doing. And Ann and Kenyatta, thank you for the great lead in. I'm going to pick up kind of where they left off. Ann gave us a great big, or a big overview, or a great overview of the state and what we're doing with economic and community development. Kenyatta kind of brought it in specifically to the education sector. I'm going to narrow down a little bit more and share with you how a major employer, Nissan Group of North America, is partnering with the education sector to kind of bridge that technical skills gap and develop the pipeline of future talent in the technical and skilled trades. Dr. Jon Mandrell is here. He's President of Tennessee College of Applied Technology, so we're partners in Smyrna, and we're gonna share with you our operation. But first of all, I've got a video that's about a minute, maybe a little more than a minute long, that'll give you an overview of TCAT, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and then we'll get into kind of the specifics of our partnership. So.
2 campuses, 1 vision. That's Tennessee College of Applied Technology in Murfreesboro and Smyrna. where we're dedicated to providing you with the skills you need to succeed both today and tomorrow, which is why we've expanded our collision repair and manufacturing programs and added studies for central sterile processing technology and building trades. We've teamed up with one of our many partners, Nissan, to train the next generation of automotive workers, training them on cutting-edge technology such as robotics. Students work side by side with experts in their career and technical field, many of whom get hired before they get their diploma. Tennessee Board of Regents' Economic and Community Development Program is also housed within our campus, further assisting in our reach to provide cutting-edge training to the local region and beyond.
My experience here has been great. My instructor is amazing. She's truly prepared me for my career that I will have as a surgical technologist.
As a past graduate of Tennessee College of Applied Technology, I took the skills that I learned to start my own business. I came back to school in order to bring my business into the future.
Tennessee College of Applied Technology, building the future.
Here we go. So let me share with you a little bit about Nissan and our presence here in Middle Tennessee. And I think that Ann shared with you that we do have a strong presence here. Back in the early 80s, 1983 specifically, Nissan began producing automobiles in Middle Tennessee, just southeast of Nashville, in Smyrna, Rutherford County. And today, we have the capacity to be the highest volume car and SUV plant or vehicle producing plant in North America. So we can build more vehicles than any plant in Canada, US, or Mexico, right here in Middle Tennessee. We have two other assembly plants in the U.S., one in Deckard, Tennessee. It's a powertrain facility. We build more than 1 million engines a year there in Deckard, Tennessee. And then in Canton, Mississippi, just north of Jackson, we have another vehicle assembly plant where we build cars and SUVs and trucks and commercial vans. So we do have quite a presence here in Tennessee. Our corporate headquarters did relocate from Los Angeles to just outside of Nashville in Franklin, and that happened in 2006. So Nissan has quite an investment and presence here in Middle Tennessee. Now let's kind of take it down to the technical skills level, and let me start this story with maybe the time period, 2010, 2012 time period. As the nation was coming out of the Great Recession, the vehicle market was coming back. And Nissan was in a period of expansion. So we were preparing to add 2 additional vehicle lines. So currently we build 3 cars, 3 different types of cars, models cars, and 3 types of SUVs. So we were going from 4 vehicle models up to 6, okay? We were also adding a 3rd production shift. We were bringing on an afternoon shift. And we realized that we simply did not have enough skilled maintenance technicians to run the shop. There weren't enough graduates coming out of technical programs in industrial maintenance to fulfill our need, along with our suppliers and other feeder industries. And there weren't enough mid-career hires that we could just go and hire or maybe poach, and that's never a good solution because we don't want to take the skilled talent away from our suppliers. They're vital to our operation. So we saw the need. The only way that we could really bridge that gap for skilled maintenance technicians, and let's take a time out for a minute just to define what a maintenance technician is, okay? An industrial maintenance technician. When you hear the term maintenance, never think janitorial, okay? And don't even think building maintenance. These maintenance technicians are very highly skilled in programming robots and in programming the automated equipment that we run, in kind of designing layouts and installing new equipment, working on predictive analytics, thermal imaging, ultrasound, things where we can predict when a motor would fail, predict when equipment may fail so that we can prevent downtime. So these are very, very highly skilled technicians. Some companies use engineers. They have their engineers program robots, but we have our hourly maintenance technicians do that. And we've got around 500 on the roll in Smyrna. So kind of back to our story. We had the need for the skilled maintenance technicians, and the education sector simply could not achieve that supply. So rather organically, a group of employers, Nissan, Bridgestone, some of the other employers in Rutherford County, got together and joined with the education sector, representatives from K-12, from Technical College TCAT, from the Community College Motlow State, and our 4-year university, Middle Tennessee State University. So this group of industry leaders and educators came together with the sole purpose of creating pathways into the skilled trades. And out of that group came the idea, what if Nissan were to partner with TCAT in the same facility under one roof? Nissan's instructors would collaborate with TCAT's instructors. We'd all share the same equipment, and the rising tide would raise all ships. Okay? So we shared that idea with the Board of Regents, who oversees the technical schools and community colleges. And they loved the idea. They latched onto it. And the way the story goes, now I was in a little different role at the time at Nissan, but the way the story goes, the Board of Regents elevated this idea to the governor's office. And within 24 hours, we had a verbal commitment that this facility was a go. Okay? So you may wonder, how does anything move that quickly in government or education or business? And the answer is, and both Ann and Kenyatta referred to it, it was Governor Haslam's, our prior governor, his new initiative, Drive to 55. So the timing was perfect. We approached him with the idea kind of in the fall of 2012. And I believe with his State of the State address in January of 2013, he rolls out this Drive to 55. And again, since you're not from the state, let me just kind of reinforce, he intends for 55% of Tennesseans to hold some sort of post-secondary degree or credential by the year 2025. And as they have both mentioned, he has created 2 scholarships, Tennessee Promise for graduating high school seniors, Tennessee Reconnect for adult learners, where they can go tuition-free and achieve this 2-year post-secondary credential. So the timing was perfect. Okay. So kind of fast forward to today, we opened the facility a little over 2 years ago, January of 2017, we moved in. So now TCAT teaches 5 different programs. I teach, or my staff trains our own Nissan employees. We go really deep into the skill set that they need to be successful in their roles. Okay. Now, Dr. Mandrell, if you'd like to share a little bit, we'll kind of go back and forth.
Sure. Good morning. Our college is built upon workforce development. That's what we do. That's our mission. So when we have a program, it is built entirely based on community and industry needs. So our college has 2 campuses, as you just heard from Dan. They're 2 very different campuses. One is more automotive and manufacturing, and the other one is more health and human services. And all of our programs, again, are built out of an industry coming to us and saying, we have this great need. So for example, 16 programs, our 16th program to join us recently was building trades. And the reason for that is, just like you all, we are seeing a huge setback in the workforce in building trades. And our county is growing at such a rapid pace that we can't keep up with homes. I came from Northern Illinois, despite my last name being Mandrell, people assuming that I'm absolutely from Tennessee and have been here my whole life. I get that all the time. In fact, and I can totally relate to, I was having an argument with my father over the weekend, who lives in Northern Illinois, that Opryland is a resort and shopping center place. And he says, no, we went there when you were a little kid. We were roller coasters. And I said, there are no roller coasters there. So it's starting to make more sense now, and I owe him a big apology.
Yeah.
So Tennesseans are still bitter about that offer. We really are. We're bitter.
I called in today to Dan and I said, my father insisted I've been here and that there were roller coasters here. And he said, that's because there were. That whole shopping center's new. So our programs are entirely on demand, and they go fast. Education, as Dan mentioned, does not always, I think your message was, we don't always move fast. We are known for being a little bit sluggish and turning around quickly, but TCATs, our colleges, are known for being what our governor even dubbed, our former governor, as being speedboats, which means you've got this demand, let's fill it, let's turn around, let's get students in the pipeline, let's get them to work, and quickly. For example, when I met with building trades about creating a program which just launched, they said they would pay up to $80,000 right now for a plumber. That's how desperate need they are. If a plumber walked in the door right now and was skilled, that's the key word. So when we talk to our community, they say, we have all these places to work. Why aren't people going to work? I don't get it. They're not looking for just anyone. And we all see that in our industry. We're looking for specialized, skilled people who have a balance of solid curriculum and that other part we all talked about today, life skills. So we teach half life skills, we teach half curriculum. We're all dealing with people right now who we hire, we want to be fantastic, but maybe they're not great with team chemistry. They don't have great soft skills. I dealt with one yesterday, even at a presidential level, who keeps sleeping in class. And you know, that is serious though, because when our students come to work every day, we're a different type of delivery of an education model. Our students come every day 7:45 to 2:30. They stay in a cohort basically as a group, and we treat them like the workforce. Bring your lunch with you, you're gonna be held to an attendance standard. It's a very different model, and we're getting ready for the workforce. So those little soft skill things are being integrated that are huge things. We all want right now, what we're hearing too often is coachable people, and we'll figure out the rest. We want to be able to deliver solid workforce, specialized professionals, and hopefully that other part is secondary, that they're responsible and that they're great team members. So to get right back to point here, these are just on the left 5 programs that we have that really feed Nissan, I would say. Number 1, as Dan mentioned, industrial electrical maintenance, known as mechatronics. What a great name for a program. You say major in mechatronics, you get people's attention. But it's kind of a jack of all trades person. They can troubleshoot about anything. It's heavy on electrical. These are, I compare these students to like being high school Division I athletes. And what I mean by that is employers come in like Division I college coaches and say, please come work for us. It's just like an athlete. Please come sign with us. Please help us. It's like recruiting. And they're fighting over these graduates. And we have 100 in the program and we have 60 on the wait list. We are trying to feed that program as much as we can, but all of our programs are heavily contingent on equipment and space. So we're doing everything we can to get everyone in. Automotive technology sort of speaks for itself. We're very close with Nissan in that matter, especially in terms of producing technicians out of the dealerships. Auto collision repair. We've got a great program. We're going to give you just a little bit more touch of that in a moment, so I don't want to ruin that, about how we unite together in that. Machine tool technology, another high demand field. And for example, tool and die is another one. You can write your own check on where you want to work in tool and die. They are becoming extinct in this world. So tool and die is very popular, machine tool technology, and then welding. Welding's popular nationwide and needed nationwide. These are just 5 of the programs that we have. All of them are full, have massive wait lists, but we are working across the state to alleviate these wait lists. And I'll say in the past, educators and industry, we come together, we talk, we fine tune things, we talk about what's coming up, what we need to adjust for, we talk about soft skills now, then we go back to our corners, come back, meet again, adjust things. But now what we're doing, very unique paradigm here where you take an educator and a private industry and put them under one roof together. And more of anything, we are maximizing our resources, sharing things together, equipment, robots, and talking more intensively about what the workforce should look like. And our college goes way beyond just Nissan, and Dan's actually really clear about that too, is that our community's a little confused by this. Are you Nissan? Are you TCAT? Which one are you? We're actually both. And our biggest challenge right now is letting people know this is kind of a new look for education, to bring a private and a partner, a private and a public partner together under one roof. So Dan, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, and I was just noticing here with this photograph, I frosted it a little bit so the writing would stand out. But really what you're looking at here is the main hallway. Oh, sorry about that. So this lab here is John's industrial maintenance or mechatronics lab. Right across the hall where you see the industrial robots, that's my Nissan's robotics lab. So we're literally right across the hall from each other and we collaborate together. Now in Smyrna, Nissan has 8,400 employees, and every one of those employees at various times throughout their career will come over to the training center for upskilling and reskilling. And we have some major groups that we train. We train maintenance technicians in robotics and automation, programming and control, just to really go deep into those skill sets. We have courses for engineers. We don't repeat anything they've already learned in engineering school, but we apply that to an automotive setting. Leadership's really important. Our first line supervisors lead 16 to 20 people, so we've really been leaning into leadership over the past 18 months. And you know, they say people go to work for a company, but they leave because of their supervisor or their manager. So we're really investing into our people with leadership training here at the facility. And then we do some function specific. That may be some quality inspection testing, some safety training, things like that. That's specific to different sections. Okay. Now we wanted to show you this slide, and this is our paint booth. So this is what can happen when industry and education partners together. When we built the facility, TCAT and Nissan went in together and invested in a $1.2 million paint booth facility. And for that $1.2 million, we got, I'm gonna watch this here. We got 2 full-size paint booths, a sanding area to the side, and a mix room out front. And these paint booths perfectly replicate the painting processes that we do in the plant. They're climate controlled both for temperature and humidity. They both have the downdraft to pull the fumes and overspray down. And they're capable of spraying waterborne paint, which is what we do in the plant. And they're large enough to accommodate our full-size vehicles. So our full-size truck, the Titan, and our full-size SUVs, the Nissan Armada and the Infiniti QX80. So this is a space where we both work. And John, did you want to add anything about TCAT's collision repair program?
Yeah, right now we have 20 students in the program and in a wait list. We're looking to alleviate that. Very, very popular program. One of our biggest limitations there is space. So if we get students who bring in multiple projects at one time, cars, vehicles, all sorts of parts, most recently we're doing a lot more motorcycles, it can fill up quickly. So we share the space with Nissan, which is great exposure for our students. And to have a paint booth at a technical college, two booths actually, is pretty amazing. So we're maximizing our space really well with this program.
Okay. So I want to share with you just a little bit about how Nissan is partnering with TCAT and kind of filling the pipeline for Nissan's needs. Now let me be very clear, because I don't think I've stated this before. Any student who attends TCAT and graduates from TCAT can go to work anywhere they choose. So this isn't an example of state funding and state dollars specifically benefiting one employer, Nissan, okay? Now we do hire several of their graduates, but John's graduates go to work for our suppliers, for other industry, even our competitors. And there's 3 basic partnerships that we've got that are running really well for us. One is in industrial electrical maintenance. We have a pathway, a direct pathway into a career at Nissan as an industrial maintenance technician. And that goes through a work-study program. It's a part-time program where students who are in their final trimester, who are at least 12 months through their program, can apply, take a skills test, pass an interview, and come in and work at Nissan at part-time, 24 to 40 hours a week. And that's a great way for that student, that potential candidate, to come in and learn about Nissan. It's a great way for Nissan to learn about that candidate, and for both parties to kind of make a decision, would this be a good decision for a full-time hire? And I'm proud to say that since we've been running this program for 2 years, every candidate that John's provided us that we ran through work study has been offered full-time employment with Nissan. So that's a great pathway. But again, folks coming out of this program can go to work anywhere that they choose. Automotive technology, auto mechanics, auto service is a very competitive industry, and what my peers on the parts and service side of the business tell me, they say if they wait until technical college graduation, they are too late in recruiting candidates for our dealerships. And so Nissan is in our current midterm plan. It calls for growth and expansion in market share. And so dealer service technicians is a bottleneck. Because face it, nobody wants to wait for your car to be repaired. And we're really not tolerant of a bad repair, or you get your car back and then something else is broken. We're just really not tolerant. So about 18 months ago, we entered into a partnership, a pilot program with TCAT, where we identified 10 of their students. We reimbursed the cost of their tools. We placed them in internships with our dealers, and we opened up our Nissan-specific e-learning where they could be studying Nissan-specific repair along with the curriculum that John's instructor provides. So since we started that program, 4 of the students have graduated, and we placed them immediately into dealerships. So that's a great program for us. Now on the collision repair side, you know, Nissan as a corporation, we don't own or operate any collision repair shops. That's kind of your end of the business. But you know, we do certify those shops. So we collaborate with John's instructor on the ICAR curriculum. We donate parts in like body panels that may have been damaged that come off of warranty, other vehicles that may be damaged. We donate those over to the school. And then the final slide here, or the sector, is with equipment donations. I want to share a little bit with you about that. As you can imagine, equipment cost is a huge barrier for a technical training program. And as this building was under construction, we saw it coming, I worked with our maintenance group, our maintenance professionals, engineers and technologists, and we did some brainstorming of what skills we needed to train there at the facility and what equipment we would need. And they, in turn, reached out to the equipment vendors that we already have a professional relationship with and solicited donations. And so we've had 28 vendors who have donated equipment valued at around $2 million in retail value. We've had 4 different brands of robots that were donated, 4 brands of programmable logic controllers. We've had hydraulics and pneumatic stations and cutaway motors. And that's just a real benefit that we can offer Jon's students because of Nissan's influence and partnership there. So we want to pivot just for a moment. We've spoken a lot about what we do and what we're doing there in the facility and how we partner, but we don't sit back and kind of understand that people are going to be knocking on our door and clamoring to get into the program. We are actively working within the community and developing the pipeline. So about 3 years ago, and part of my role in leading training for Nissan, I'm Nissan's liaison to the education sector, and I collaborate with the Chamber of Commerce. And I worked with our Chamber of Commerce, and we developed Rutherford Works. It's our workforce development strategy. It's a 10-year strategy. And what we did, we defined 5 high-wage, high-demand sectors. Those are construction, healthcare, information technology, manufacturing, and supply chain management. Now, you may think that manufacturing is a direct hit for Nissan. Yes, it is. We also have a pretty big supply chain base. We also use information technology. But I'll tell you this, those 8,400 employees that we have, we're community citizens. So we're consumers of healthcare. So we do have an interest in developing that, as well as construction. Jon mentioned the new construction trades. And so it's vital to the community to keep that retail and residential construction going. Now, the levers to achieve these goals and to meet the needs for talent in these high-wage, high-demand sectors are, first of all, developing pathways, seamless pathways from middle school to high school to technical school, community college, or university and the workforce. And then once those pathways are in place, we sponsor career exploration activities. We define those as things that happen on the school property. And then we go a step farther with activities that we consider employer engagement, which are activities that's done in the employer shop. And then the pinnacle is work-based learning, where a student can study a topic in the classroom, but also go to work and get some hands-on on-the-job experience. So let me give you just a few examples of what we're doing with this Rutherford Works program. Nissan participates in the high school internship program. It runs through the month of June, and we bring in high school interns to learn our processes. And this is just a great time of discovery. This has been very successful with us, and some students enter into an internship with an area of focus, and it just crystallizes that, yes, this is what I want to do. We consider that a success. We've also seen students who have gone into an area they thought they were interested in, and it really didn't meet their expectations, and they finish their internship and say, this really isn't for me. And we consider that a success too, because it helps them to define what they want to do before they get too far down the path. Last summer, we partnered with the Chamber in their first ever teacher externship program. We hosted 3 teachers and 2 administrators from Smyrna Middle School for 2 weeks in our facility. They rotated around, they collaborated with our staff, they kind of made some networking connections. But then they followed up with a project, and so we brought every 8th grade student, 300 of them, from Smyrna Middle School for a tour of our assembly plant and a tour of the training center. We also went over, several Nissan employees went over to the school for Career Day, and then in conjunction with these 2 events, we had them take the new U-Science career assessment and aptitude test, really to help them at the 8th grade level know what their aptitudes are, where they may be a good fit, and give them an opportunity to see what Nissan has done. Something that we're really proud of is back in October, we hosted 955 7th graders for a Junior Achievement STEM Summit. You can see our auditorium was full. It was 3 days, 3 middle schools, 3 days, total of 955. They did all kinds of experiments with polymers and expandable foams, and they did activities with robots. And here's how I kind of gauged the performance. We had one of the schools send us some thank you notes. And one of them just really stands out to me, a young lady named Stella Phelps, 7th grader. And she wrote to us and she said that her favorite activity at the STEM Summit was robotics. Because, and I'm going to quote, "Somebody there told me that I was good at it, and it made my day." So it's like, man, that's a double hit, check 2 boxes. We not only exposed Stella to a potential career in robotics, but we've built her confidence. So we may very well see her on our payroll someday, and I hope that we do. Now, I threw out the number 955 students. That's a big number. But John and I aren't content just to say that we've addressed 955 students. In our county, there are 4,000 7th graders. So what we're thinking about is how do we reach that other 3,000 students to expose them to potential careers? Okay. Here are just a few logos and things that we're doing. Skills USA, I'm sure you're probably familiar with that. We are a sponsor at the statewide level. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were in Chattanooga sponsoring their statewide competition. Great place to recruit talent. DECA Club, we host their regional competitions. We can bring in 400 high school students with those DECA competitions. And again, just get those eyeballs on our facility, expose them to what we do. Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, we partner with them. They bring in students from rural counties and kind of show them kind of state-of-the-art technologies. We've also partnered with them to help them design a statewide teacher externship program, kind of building on the successes that we've had with the Rutherford Chamber. Of course, we partner with the county schools and the city schools. Between these two, this year in Rutherford County, there are 59 schools. But when we open the doors in August, we'll have 62 schools. We've got 3 brand new schools coming on board, 2 within the county system, 1 within the city system. So very, very huge system. Business Education Partnership just celebrated 30 years. It's a collaboration between Nissan and the Chamber. And we sponsor and help teachers with mini grants for their classrooms. SCORE, State Collaborative on Reforming Education, they've given industry a real voice. I think maybe it was before we started. We were talking about Perkins grants, Carl Perkins funding, federal funding. And SCORE has really given Nissan and other employers a seat at the table to help the education sector know what is important and what skills we need. And then finally, National Skills Coalition, we're beginning to create a partnership with them, sharing the good things that we're doing, learning the other best practices from around the nation, and so that's off to a really good start, that partnership. So at this point, we can open it up for questions or discussion. I believe Aaron's intention was for Ann and Kenyatta to come back, and John, so any question you may have.
So, and if you guys want to, you're welcome to just step up or stand up however you'd like, and please, we encourage kind of communication from the audience. Just to kick it off maybe and kind of look specifically to the industry, a lot of the folks sitting in the room are small businesses who I think can certainly relate to a number of these programs or go, wow, that's really cool, but I'm not a big manufacturer or I don't have an inspired governor maybe leading the charge, right? Like some of those types of things. And so I think the question becomes for each of you, maybe is there a takeaway that a small business could go, how could I at least start down the path with my own business in my own state, with the government that we have or the schools that we have? How do we at least start the conversation to get somewhere where it will benefit my small business at home? Any thoughts on that?
Great question.
Yeah. I've got some thoughts because this is what we've done. At Nissan, of course, we're a large corporation, but really the success, and we see small businesses, our success is we have a very strong and vibrant Chamber of Commerce, and they serve as an intermediary. And one of our counterparts in Rutherford County, Beth Duffield, is Senior Vice President, and she focuses on workforce development. So she wakes up in the morning thinking about it, goes to sleep at night thinking about it, and she kind of helps create those inroads in with the education sector and industry sector. Tomorrow morning, John and I are meeting with the Construction Council, and it's smaller employers, and they have a voice, they have a seat at the table because of the Chamber of Commerce and the workforce development. So.
So, no, I think that's actually a really good question. And so my dad's a small business owner, and my question to you all is, how many of you have some type of internship program or some type of opportunity where you open your door and let either maybe a teacher come in, or you let some high school students come in? There's a couple of you. That is the best thing you can do. Look at your business, look around in the different occupations that you have and the different processes that you have, and find some things that are low skill where you can get those students in there early. And I think that that is something that helps build your pipeline. And if you have the intermediary, go through the intermediary, but just as an individual, you can go and find those students, go to that high school and knock on the door and say, hey, I would like to invite somebody in. And if you get to the teacher level, they'll find someone for you. Teachers have a very hard time asking these questions because they don't know what to ask. They don't know that it's possible. And a lot of this is your entrepreneurial spirit continuing over to the education side, right? So it's like, I need some people, I'm gonna go get me some people. That's how we work. So go find those people, find those skill sets that they can do where your safety coordinator's not gonna freak out and your insurance is not gonna freak out. Pay them a lower wage because you can, and get them invested in the pipeline. And then I think that getting referrals from other students is still the best way, the same way that getting referrals is still one of the best ways to find your employees.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about the local nature of it, believe it or not, Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Reconnect were all really driven from local innovation. And so for your elected officials in your area, articulating why education and skills are important, you'd be surprised at what champions will come from that. So that Governor Haslam that we talk about in our presentation actually started out as Mayor Haslam with a program called Tennessee Achieves that then cultivated into Tennessee Promise. So you'd be surprised how many locally elected officials, once you articulate this challenge, this need, and the role they play into it, you can have a champion that can move this a long way. You never know who's going to become governor next.
Yeah. You never know.
By the way, I'm not running for governor. So. First of all, I was fortunate. I've been to your Smyrna assembly plant twice. Yes. Was at your TCAT facility in December. Very impressive facility. I'm not going to introduce myself from a business perspective, but I'm speaking here on behalf of TechForce. So, first question is: are you guys working with the TechForce Foundation now? Okay, so Josh, where'd you go? So Josh, who's afraid to come up here right now, is also working on TechForce. We've been working on this initiative on the mechanical side of the business for about 5 or 6 years. And you guys were, especially Andy, you were talking about metrics, right? I want to give you a little metrics to chew on and maybe comment on. We've got 120,000 shops in the aftermarket, non-dealers, that do under hood work, about 240,000 that do undercar. We have about 60,000 open jobs right now in the mechanical space. Yeah. Our biggest challenge, and this is one of the reasons TechForce was created, was to deal with a career path. So you guys sort of talked about that a little bit. If you go to a dealership, Toyota, for example, has a very clearly defined career path. Aftermarket, not so much. And so TechForce was designed to create sort of a career path. Our numbers are staggering right now after we get them out of vocational school and end up in the career field, where within 2 to 3 years, they drop out of the industry and they go work in the oil fields or they go work somewhere else. And so if you guys want to be part of that conversation, Josh and I welcome you to come see us in the next 48 hours, and we'll talk about how we integrate. Because our goal in TechForce right now is to develop a career path for somebody who doesn't end up in a dealership, but ends up in an independent collision shop or an independent mechanical shop, and actually wants a career. Because typically in those jobs, when they hit about 40 or 45 years old, physically they can't do the job anymore. a technician who's really good at taking things apart and putting it back together doesn't migrate well into a service advisor job or a service manager job because it's a different skill set. So anyway, that was my comment. About if anyone here wants to talk about TechForce, I'll be around for the next 48 hours. And Josh in the back over there is also familiar with the topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question, and it's geared towards the technical college instructor, and I forgot your name. I'm terrible with names. John. One of the challenges that we're seeing in our industry, and I understand you're bringing people up and giving them the skills to begin the process of being able to repair and work on modern vehicles. One of the largest hurdles we're starting to see is the detective skills needed to understand how you go about repairing that vehicle, albeit that around researching, finding, documenting the repair procedures that are needed to be able to fix modern cars, and Nissans are some of the most advanced cars on the road. So what is the integration between your students? And I heard you say, right now there's a lot of motorcycles. Well, that's not, granted they may have fuel injection, they don't have autonomous braking, they don't have lane departure warning, they don't have all of that technology, and they're not constructed the same, so they're not mixed materials that are bonded together. How do you go about, and what does the curriculum look like, just in a few words, how do you go about helping those students understand the learning process needed to shape and move with the evolving nature of how cars are constructed, both from a technology and from a vehicle construction safety cell system? Well, I know a big question. But
For us, all of our programs are really guided by an advisory council. So I can almost answer a previous question too, how to get more involved. So our industry members help us shape that curricula and also embed that into the program. And we also have them heavily a part of the program. So they're not just hearing from an instructor that they may find is just in theory. They're hearing from industry members right there in our classrooms too, that this is exactly how this goes and why we're doing this. It also ties a little bit into donorship. We talked about donors. Technical colleges, when it comes to donors, we seek equipment, whereas most institutions may work closely with alum and donors and talk about funds and scholarships. We really look for what you're talking about, is how do you get that cutting edge equipment to help us embed things as fast as possible and hopefully ahead of the curve.
So I want to get this very specific. This is not about equipment.
Okay.
This is about having the individuals understand how to go find the actual way to repair the car. And the reason is because how we fix cars today is very different than how we did them yesterday, which is also going to be very different than how we do it tomorrow. As Nissan comes out with more things and more ways to attach materials, newer technology, newer sensors, you can't take a door apart.
Tim, step to the microphone if you're sure.
Well, and I want to be clear too, I'm not the instructor.
Okay.
I'm the president of the college, so I can't speak real close to curriculum
Okay, well
in
then
the field.
I'll back the question up
Okay.
to maybe a point of what we're looking for as an industry, at least in my opinion. And by the way, my name's Tim Ronick. I didn't introduce myself. Because of the evolution of the cars, what you're teaching today is almost irrelevant by the time they go out and get a job, because we need to teach them how to learn to find the methodology to repair the future vehicle. And learning that process, for the skilled worker that ages out, he may become the researcher of an organization that finds how you go about repairing that car. And gone are the days where you can learn how to braze and gas weld metal and be able to attach components, basically glue them together. Today, the attachment methods and how you assemble the car is extremely different. My point is, part of the education that we have of the students is not just teaching them to weld or having the best welder to attach it. There's an attachment methodology that goes beyond just the physical equipment. There's a learning process that needs to be in place to teach them to research, to find out how they should take the car apart before they engage in the process itself.
Yeah, the nomenclature side to it more than anything.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
How to act, the troubleshooting, the critical thinking side to it.
Right.
Yeah, that
So
fortitude.
equipment is a part, but it's more about learning where to go find that instruction, whether it's going straight to the OEM through their website and looking up the repair procedures there, whether it's a resource, perhaps like All Data or some other methodology for them to come up with the repair procedures to do it before they begin the process of repairing the vehicle. I guess that's my point. And I was curious if you had something. I misunderstood you as being the instructor.
No, I mean, I wish I could speak more directly
Okay.
to our curriculum on the front
So
line.
I won't hold you to it, but
Okay.
that's something we need as an industry almost more than the skills itself.
Sure.
Knowing when they're doing something wrong or about to do something wrong puts people in jeopardy of their safety
Sure.
with these modern cars. Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say this on the Nissan side for service technicians in Nissan. So I have a counterpart. I'm in manufacturing. I have a counterpart who oversees training for sales and service, and we have regional training centers, and we bring our service technicians into those training centers. And so John provides the foundational skills for automotive repair, but we really go deep into the skill sets of problem solving, diagnosis that's specific to Nissan. Now, we do that on our side after employment, but that's some of the things we're doing. Currently, the highest number of onboard computers in any of our products is about 23. When we launch our next model Rogue in a couple of years, that's going up to 40. So it's really a computer programming and diagnosis world that we're living in.
To my point.
Yeah, right.
That's a huge
Right.
issue.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so it sounds like to me y'all have a wait list of a lot of people that you'd like to get involved in schools, correct?
Yeah.
And one of the main issues you said was funding, and so you can get more equipment, have more teachers, more of everything, right? I don't know whether this would be helpful or not, so this is a little different thought process here, but I've been pushing at it from the other side, just from the health of the people that I used to play sports with. I played, shock a lot of you, actually played basketball, D1 basketball, and then I had a son that played football, D1. And one thing that hadn't changed when he was going through versus me is how many of those students there really shouldn't be attending a D1 school. They really were there to play sports. And it just seems like to me there's a lot of funding that's attached to them that goes to wherever they are. And you guys seem to be in a unique position because you are really doing something to many of us think is really the education that we need going forward for our country. Let's just say for our country. Let's not talk about our industry, let's talk about our country. And I just don't know whether it would be a help or a benefit or whether the ideas ever sparked in your mind. I've always tried to been pushing from the athletic and the sports side of it to open up to where other facilities could be considered to have athletic teams that competed in the NCAA, so the funding would get to you all. Would that be a benefit, or would that be more of a nightmare for you guys to deal with?
Competition. So I showed the logo for Skills USA. So to me, a technical student, either at the high school level or the post-secondary level, if they want to rise to the top and if they want the chance at their best career, they're going to get into Skills USA, and there is competition. Nissan does sponsor that. We made a $25,000 sponsorship at the state level for Skills USA. So we're doing that. Is that kind of on the lines of what you were?
No, I was just saying to trying to get the NCAA to let you guys be able to have teams in it, so the fundings and all that come with it. That's what I'm just trying to track the funding. To me, why is that any less of a reason than any other school? And to me, that's the schools we need.
Yeah.
So, this is anecdotal, but one of the other jobs I have done is I did fundraising for the University of Louisville Kent School of Social Work. And getting money out of social workers is really hard, but getting money into Louisville basketball is really easy. So we talked about this a lot. That's a big wall you're climbing, but I think that's something that's really interesting, and we'd be happy to look at it. I mean, if you have some thoughts or plans, I mean, that's
sure.
Yeah, be happy to. It's a good idea.
I would just say one thing that's kind of on the periphery of what you're talking about. We focus on college completion in our organization and what gets a student through and makes them more successful. And back to athletics, when you think about the supports that come to a student that may be low income or first generation, why don't we have those supports for just a student who's coming academically that may be more challenged? Why are we putting so many dollars into athletics? So, your conversation and that idea breaks up that mode of saying well, if you're going to put supports around someone that may or may not make the pros, why wouldn't you do it for those students who are going to be critical to the industry? Yeah, there's not a draft where 250,000 people come to Nashville to listen to it, but I think each of you would celebrate if you had the pipeline you needed. So that's a good point.
So just to be clear, is your idea say that we give a scholarship to a student going to University of Tennessee to play football, and maybe he has an interest in the technical skills, so maybe he actually studies at TCAT Knoxville.
Bingo.
Okay, now, got it, I understand. I love that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, good morning to you all. My name is Jenna Kuskowski. I'm from Body Shop Business Magazine. And this was kind of going off what you were saying, Ann, but I mean, open to all of you guys to answer. You were talking about more shops having internships, apprenticeships. And what I've heard coming back from the industry and seeing these independent shop owners is saying, you know, one, how do I go about it? And two, you know, some of them do get that program in the door and they start hiring, you know, either kids that are still in technical school, going to technical school, or graduating. And their biggest complaint is, oh, like I don't have time to train these people, or I give them one task, they mess up. So do you feel like it's important for shops to not only have the internship program or the mentorship program, but to build that program and kind of come in with a plan running, saying, you know, this is who's going to mentor them, maybe we pay them more, maybe we set aside time. Do you feel like that's important for independent shops that are looking to recruit like that?
Absolutely. So it is really hard. I think that's the first thing to accept, is that it's a very difficult thing because it's not our norm and it's doing something that's innovative, but also challenging because you get into a whole different group of worlds when you start combining education and industry. There are some great resources that Tennessee has online that are free. That is underneath, it's our Tennessee Department of Education created a work-based learning toolkit. And within that toolkit, it has like step-by-step instructions on how to do it. So I think there's a lot of work that's been done on the literature side and the process side. But to your point, you have to have a person who drives it. And when you don't have a person who drives it, you'll end up getting not the outcome you want. You'll have people that are messing up because they don't have somebody who's there to sit with them. So what I would suggest looking at is doing more of a collaborative approach. So Kenyatta mentioned Northeast State Community College and the RCAM, which is the Regional Center for Advanced Manufacturing. What they did is the school became the sponsor of the apprenticeship instead of the business. And so essentially what it creates is a plug and play. And they're able to work with multiple businesses at one time. And if you're a business, you can put in one student or two students or four students. And the college is actually taking care of the paperwork and the training and ensuring that they know what to do and looking at that, you know, on-the-job training portion. And there's a flat fee that's associated with it. I'd be happy to connect you with the RCAM and with Northeast State Community College just to listen more about how their process works. So their program is for a registered apprenticeship program. Eastman has about 400 apprentices currently. It's our largest apprentice employer in the state, and they're also non-union, which is important to me as I'm trying to sell Tennessee, might be important to some of you as well. So that would be, I would go to them and figure out more about what that model looks, but I agree with you, there has to be an owner. And I think a lot of times the owner can be education, they just have to have a really clear understanding of their role. But if you could pay for a point person, that would be ideal. Yeah. And let me just say one thing real quickly. We're all really accessible and like genuinely nice people. So we're happy to help after this. We're not, you know, we will help.
So, first of all, wow, I did not expect to walk into this. My name is Jeannie Silver. I am a single shop owner in Northern Illinois.
Nice.
And I am also the chair of the Collision Repair Education Foundation.
Perfect.
So that is the third part of this triangle, are the foundations. Like my colleague from Tech Force, we are facing sheer huge numbers of technicians that we need to bring into the industry and having a really hard time reaching them. So I think that with the younger generation, we have to rethink our means of communicating with this younger group. And also, we have a very transient workforce. So they may stay for 2 years, move on, 2 years, move on. Doesn't necessarily mean they've left the workforce, but perhaps they've just moved on to a different place. For instance, we have mechanics that have become collision people and collision people that have gone to the mechanical side. Anyway, I think there needs to be a collaboration among the foundations, the educators, the schools, and we need to get the message out to them. Collision Repair Education Foundation does hold career fairs all over the country just to expose students to the industry and also to match potential employers and students. And the apprenticeship model is something also we've been talking about for the last 5 years, where you have to get and to quote Rankin Technical College from St. Louis, which has a really excellent program, it says work to learn to work. So in other words, you're learning in school, you're working at a dealership, then you go back to school, then you go to the dealership, and it's kind of an off and on program. And maybe if we can put that model together, we will get more students that will actually stay. The soft skills part of it, still got to teach them that too.
I wanted to say, and I mentioned in the First Tennessee District, just last Friday I drove all the way there. They had a career fair for 5,000 high school students. The university hosted it in their basketball stadium. There were cement trucks. It was an impressive sight of allowing students to really tangibly experience what that industry feels like. In Tennessee, across the state now, we're taking not just students but parents to see the world of manufacturing, because in their view, it's a dingy, dirty, sort of totally hands-on industry, and they go into a Nissan and see clean floors and nothing but technology. It shows them that the world has changed, and also there's a viable path for the student, and also sometimes the parent. So for this industry, I think it's important too to give those students tangible experiences. When you mention how many computers are going to be in the upcoming road, I don't think a lot of students understand that it's not just the metal, but it's also the computers that are part of it, and you can definitely bring them in the fold. But that experience alone last week was impressive, just to see students understand that construction has changed, advanced manufacturing has changed, and even if you like computers and also to work with your hands, this industry is a perfect industry to be a part of.
Yeah, one more quick thing. There's also funding for this from the federal government through the Department of Labor for pre-apprenticeship programs, apprenticeship, youth employment. Again, not easy to get. I don't want to say that it's like, oh, you just walk in and they give you money. But if you have a good partner who will help you through the process, it's there.
Just as a side note to that, SCRS did research 2 years ago on workforce development grants that are available that are specific to the collision repair industry. There are videos on how to access grants on our website, as well as files and directories that are state specific for that funding. So if you're interested in exploring that, there's certainly some resources on the SCRS site.
This is actually a great segue to what you guys were just saying. My name's Andy, second generation owner of Tom and Ed's Auto Body. So we have 5 locations in Northwest Indiana. Currently right now we're working with the JAGS program, the Jobs for America's Graduates, which is fantastic because we're getting a free employee for 300 hours. So we're trying now to duplicate that for kids working with the Center of Workforce Development for people beyond high school, because everybody in our industry loves free employees, free trainees, but they don't have that facilitator there to facilitate it. My question is, does your LEAD program, is that really designed around something like that? Or is there another avenue we would go with the workforce development program?
Are you talking about in Tennessee?
For paid training employees.
So LEAP was interesting, and not exactly what you're talking about, but I think it was more around building the collaboratives and capacity across the state. So it was 2 rounds of $10 million, but it's currently dormant. And with our new governor that just came in, his new program is called GIVE, which is the Governor's Investment in Vocational Education. If you work in state government, man, we have so many acronyms. But I think that as that gets built, we'll actually have a lot of the elements of the program you were just talking about. We don't have anything from a state perspective that would address that unless you go over to the Department of Labor and work with the federal funding that comes through WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act, another acronym, sorry. But that's all I'm aware of. Are you aware of any?
JAG was defunded in Tennessee, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we didn't know JAGS existed until a year and a half ago, and then found out 13 high schools in our area actually had JAGS. For people that don't know, JAGS is an elective program in high school where kids can go in, learn soft skills, and then get placed into a a job role, and the government basically is funding 200 to 300 hours for them to work for you. But unfortunately, our business hours are very similar to high school hours, so that's why we're trying to go a different route there. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, we reintroduced Jack to the incoming governor. It was Lamar Alexander at the time was governor, brought Jack here to Tennessee, had great outcomes. For some reason, the Department of Ed defunded it, and we wanted to reintroduce that opportunity especially for our youth, to the incoming governor, since that's his focus of hopefully he can see a new vision in it. It still exists in a nonprofit format, but when it was at the state level, I think it had some great outcomes for us as well.
Thank you.
How about a big round of applause?